all'ombra degli allori, vidi mesta seder la mia vigore. All'ombra degli allori, vidi mesta seder la mia vigore. Quando io gridai, non so se l'ombra
I grew up in New York. I was born in Manhattan. And, I reinvented myself here, and some of the places that are part of who I am are going, gone. About, 7 years ago, I did a virtual tour of Kay's Disappearing New York, or Kay's New York, going, gone. And my credentials, what are they? My God. I'm thinking that I am New York because, like, my mom's family is in real estate, and my dad was evicted by Donald Trump. I said this yesterday. So I combine the whole gamut.
Went to the
Exactly. And also, in doing some research for this program, I came across, what is his name, E.B. White, and he wrote Here is New York. And he said there are two breeds of New Yorkers. There's the settler, and then there's the native. And guess what? I am both, because I am a native who settled elsewhere. And the elsewhere is this downtown New York, East Village, West Village, all around the town. So I'll leave the singing to Sue. So I have a wonderful program tonight, and I really want to give them the time. Our featured readers include Jill Rappaport for this really special occasion. And I personally don't know Jill's work, so I have an intuition about people. And when I saw her postings on Facebook that are so on the mark with what's happening in town, all around town, I invited her to read. Also, we have our regulars. We have Sue Polo, who has been in charge of the longest. I think she should be in the Guinness Book of World Records because I don't know. She does a weekly open mic for going on. She's in her 21st year, and also, did anyone see? Yes, that's right. Well, I know she's younger than I am. And I was like trying to figure this out. My God, how old was Sue when I first went to the Saturn readings in the 90s when it was at Nightingale's. The other thing I want to mention is that on the back of your program, if you get a program, there's a flyer that Sue designed, which is really the reason that I wanted to do another show. It's actually because of Sue. I thought her flyer was just such a great visual. And we also have our regulars, Ron Combe. And Ron, even though many of you know Ron, right? You know who he is, you know his writing. He's going to be reading stories I wasn't familiar with. They're set in the East Village that is no more, 70s and 80s. And it's kind of like the down and out couple. And I love these stories because, they were like a burst of fresh air, even though they're like not nostalgic in the least. So anyway, it just gives a dose of reality. Plus, I know Ron because when Coliseum Books was folding, I started to become a professional mourner at the wake of places that are disappearing. And it began with Coliseum Books, and then it continued until I could have had a second career. Anyway, never mind. So Ron is here. We have Armand back. Where is Armand?
Right here.
Oh, there you are. And Armand is very happy to pass the hat, which happens to be a bag, unless I lend him my hat, which is very shallow. And let me invite you to contribute to this reading. It's only $5 that we're requesting, and basically we work hard for our, what was the word from the song? Work hard for my,
for the money.
I work hard for the money. Fred is right beside me, and I met Fred for the first time in January, or a little before January, when he was in our reading. It was a show curated by yours truly, and it was fantastic to have him. He was like the thread that connected all the pieces. So Fred will be accompanying some readers, and he'll be accompanying himself. He's a poet, and he has some books. And I don't know all the details, but please, if the books are here, please check them out. He lives over by the East River where the sun actually rises.
I have copies.
So I'm introducing everybody at length. Who's left? Who have I left out? Oh my God. Alice, my God, Alice. Alice is hiding in the back having a tremendous dinner. Alice is a terrific storyteller and monologuist that I met actually many times in many venues, but the latest is Monologues and Madness at Cornelia Street. And I love that whatever she does, she has an authentic voice. So I welcome you and thank you for taking this evening to join us. I'm going to start out with this. It's been a long time that I've been writing crazily. I'll get it. Oh, there goes my magnum opus right there. You witnessed that, right? These are actually. Okay, by the way, before we start, Kelly is our bartender, and you need to tip her well. I'm telling you, I was a bartender once upon a time in another incarnation, and you need to order a beer, wine, food, and enjoy yourself, and just, you know, we're here, we have a space. We're talking about places that disappeared, but here's one that still exists.
Sign up sheet?
So use that, I hope to.
Sign up sheet?
Okay, so that's my pep talk. I'm good at those. But for whatever good they do.
Mention the sign-up sheet.
The sign-up sheet for our email or for the open mic. We have two sheets going around. One is if you want to be on the email list for tapping into New York. The other is open mic sign-up. We only have like how many names, Armand? Like 6 or 8?
Half a dozen.
We need, yeah, if 15 of you want to share a story, a poem, or and anything even like a rant. So I've used up all my time. Basically, I'm just going to read some fragments because actually, as far as I'm concerned, I'm totally in tune with the times. I'm like hobbled, like the city is. Like in the last 5 years, suddenly arthritis seized hold of me. I used to dance, believe it or not. So these are some of the fragments. And it starts like this. Anybody home? I see myself as a tour guide to a lost city, ghost city. Here we come. Anybody notice how places disappear overnight? It's like a mob hit. Boom, gone, like it never existed. To mention one, Cafe Dante, 100 years. Closed, Sunday. Some of my favorite places that don't exist include the Village Gate, the Bottom Line. Feel free to call out yours. CBGB, Art Greenwich Cinema. This is in the old days before.
Bar.
Say it loud. Rodeo?
Rodeo bar.
The bitter end is closing. I see this as a town hall.
Limelight. Next is
Limelight. Which one? Kansas City.
Wow.
So you got the clubs, you got the bookstores.
Gathering of the Tribes.
Gathering of the Tribes.
Cat Club.
Say it again.
The Cat Club.
The Cat Club.
St. Mark's Cinema?
Oh my God.
True Hellers.
See, the problem with this subject is it's overwhelming, and I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that I don't even want to talk about it. So, I mean, because the thing is that I found out only late last night, about midnight or 1 a.m., that Cafe Dante's had closed, and Cafe Dante was a big part of my personal experience of New York because I call them homes away from homes. They're way stations. There are certain places that offer an environment where you can be yourself by yourself. Washington Square Park was one of those places, and I'll get to that in a moment. I want to read a quote from a customer I met at Coliseum Books in January 2002, which brings us back to 4 months after 9/11. And this is what he said, and I agree with it, and it's more true today than ever. quote, "It's pretty disgraceful to kick a great independent bookstore out. If a kid is born now, he's not going to know the things that we are considering of a better time, of a better New York, a better life. It's a different New York without it. There's something secure in the knowledge that certain places are around. Otherwise, you become a stranger in your own home." Coliseum Books was one of those secure signposts. The city is becoming like anywhere else in America, but I don't want to live anywhere. I want to live in New York.
Yeah.
Customer, Danny Capellian, a music producer. And at the end, when George, what's his last name? Leapson. He moved, and that's a whole other question, whether you can actually move a vibe. It's the end of the big independence he proclaims when he closed in 2007. And I want to just say that by accident, I was talking to the owner of this place this afternoon, and this is what he said: "Small business owners will be non-existent in 10 years. And what that means is that, where are we going to go? So I'm going to read on and on the list of the dead periodically. I call it the list of the dead, just like we read the list of Iraq. And I want to read one last excerpt, and this is because Washington Square Park for me was really a turning point because of what it meant. I'm a child of the 60s. Okay, so I'm going to read a diary entry that'll take you back to January 1, 2008, and this will be the last thing I'm going to read before I introduce Sue and Fred, who are going to do some music, and we'll be like enjoying that. I'll just read this. I hope it's not too depressing. January 1st, 2008. I actually wrote it that day, that night. "I passed Washington Square Park tonight, and my heart sank. A chain link fence is up enclosing half the park. Now you may say, before I go on, well, the park's still there. But my point, my contention is, no, Washington Square Park, that was a beacon to Bob Dylan and all the creative artists that came here to New York from all over the country, is not there anymore. The sign from the mayor is up too. The court has ruled I can barely say the words. It's only a matter of time. Trees will be chopped down. The fountain will be dug up that rests above a pauper gravesite of yellow fever victims and moved to align with the arch. The plaza, now recessed, where demonstrations and performances took place, will be brought level to the fountain, and the whole area will shrink. The dog run that's heavily used will be relocated curbside. These changes are necessary to make the park pretty. According to NYU, whose private donor wants to tattoo its family name on the landmark fountain, no other reasons for these changes have been offered. A permanent fence will grow and enclose the park that has been open on every side. The money that makes these changes possible for the good of all will be provided by private funding, and thus what has been historically one of the world's foremost public spaces, an international symbol of free speech and democracy, will almost overnight become privatized. What Robert Moses failed to accomplish 50 years ago, NYU, in tandem with Bloomberg's Department of Parks and Recreation, has now done. Jane Jacobs, she's the one who lay down in front of Moses. "You're lucky you're dead. We the people who are still here are told, beware of outside terrorists. Meanwhile, here at home in our own backyard, Dorothy, corporate real estate interests terrorize our neighborhoods, spreading mayhem and domination everywhere we turn, turning free spaces into prisons and rentals. The Villager, our community newspaper, wishes, we the people wish, for a better outcome. Who will sit in the trees when the bulldozers come? Who will tell the tale?" I nominated myself at that point. Anyway, that's my little excerpt from the fact that this has been going on a long time. Okay, I want to move on and introduce our musical duo who are going to individually and together regale you with a song that I think will be very topical given our winter that we've had. So Sue Polo and Fred Simpson, thanks very much. Okay, thank you.
CBGB's. And then CBGB's Gallery even. That was great too. 313. Don't know why there's no sun up in the sky, stormy weather, since my man and I, we ain't together. Keeps raining all the time, keeps raining all the time. Life is bare, blooming misery everywhere, stormy weather. Just can't keep this poor old heart together. Feel so lonely all the time, Feel so lonely all the time. When he went away, those blues came up and met me. If he stays away, that old rocking chair's gonna get me. Every night I pray, the Lord above will let me walk in the sunshine again. I can't go on. Everything I had is gone. Stormy weather. Since my man and I, we ain't together. Keeps raining all the time. Keeps raining all the time. Fred Simpson. And he was really holding back there, I just have to say. He's an awesome djembe player. So I'm going to read a couple of pieces to start off with. And I guess then we're going to have some open mic. Yeah. This is called Ewan. He was a brute of a man, early 20s, perhaps 25, of Irish descent, not too worldly wise. He and his brother worked to renovate apartments in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx. They lived in the Bronx. His brother, a strapping and tall stalk of a man, did the plastering and painting. Ewan did the floors. For years he had grown, or overgrown, you might say, in strength. With the numbing hum and buzz and weight of the floor sander, his hands had developed to be as muscular boxing gloves from wrangling the heavy machine. His back bulged, hunched and ogre-like from hunkering down, back and forth across room after room. His brother was the lucky one, tall and lithe, a typical Gaelic youth, handsome as they come. But as for Ewan, he was a monster, crouching and fearsome looking, and he loathed what he had become, yet this was all he knew. One day he saw her, having stopped at the Fast Folk Music Club for a beer to quench his dry and wood-dusty mouth. It was on the ground floor of the building that he was working in on North Moore Street in Hudson. It's no longer there, but she, at the time, was behind the counter, and as she handed him the bottle, he was mesmerized. She said, $6.50, please, and he came to his senses, handing her a 10. Keep the change, he heard him say. he heard himself say, as he watched her, her tiny, fragile hand take the bill. Her face was what he imagined a heavenly angel's would be. So young and fair, her skin reminded him of lilies or jasmine petals, seeming soft, almost transparent. Her hair pale gossamer. Her smile filled him with a strange sense of happiness, of no worry, peaceful. The break he had arrived during was over, and he took a seat. Later, after the music ended, people were saying their goodbyes, and he came back to the bar. Her name was Anne. Would she come for a beer with him across the street? She thought about it for a short moment and then agreed. Turning, she stepped down from the stool she stood on to be able to reach the register, being only 3 feet tall. They walked together. At the doorway, he took her tiny hand in his, being careful and gentle not to crush her small fingers with his massive fist. Beauty and the Beast.
Wow.
It's partially a true story, just so you know. She asked me if she should go out with him.
Yeah.
Well, he was a stranger from the group, but I mean, I said, well, you should. Why not? I mean, it would give him it would break his heart if you said no. And they did go out, and they had a nice time. Anyway, this is called Knowing the Way. I need a prop. Can you hold this for me? Just leave it open. Some of you have heard this. In my neighborhood, there are regulars, people you recognize and see often, but you don't know personally, locals. One is an old woman who walks with her gray wire-folding grocery cart. The wheels are creaky as well as she may be, possibly in her 70s. The old 70s, not the new 70s. You know what I mean. She's tall, and her long gray coat accentuates her tree-like stance. Her face resembles that of a hawk, and somewhat grim with her slow, secure pace, negotiating the questionable parts of the sidewalk. One day, it was raining. And as I gazed out from my second-floor window to check the weather, there she was, coming diagonally across the street, bumping along over the slick cobblestones with her cart. She had, I can't do it. She had a brown paper bag over her head. I could do this. A brown paper suit, it completely covered her head. As she was going along, it made her look eerie robot-like. Standing on her tall, square shoulders, big square bag. I thought to myself, how could she see? There were no eye holes. I guess after so many years, you must know the way.
Oh, boy.
True story. Thank you for listening.
We have about half of the open that is here now. I think we should start with. So I have Rose is number 1. Barbara Rosenthal. I met Rose yesterday, so that's hi. I just met you. Who's Dorothy? Where is she? Dorothy Friedman? Somebody signed her up.
She was going to come.
Oh, shoot. Okay, so after Barbara Rosenthal, we have Mitch Corber, who I know is here, and Susan Wyman. Where are you? Yes. And Sue Young. Okay, so let me see, it's actually 7 people. Let's see how we do with time. So, because we're gonna do some open later after the features. So let's go through Dorothy and we'll see where we are, okay? Either Dorothy or Mitch, okay? How's that? I'm getting, oh, Dorothy's not here. So it goes from Rose, Barbara, Mitch. Let's go through those people, and then we might go to the features, and we don't know if people are coming late. We'll see. Does that make sense for everyone? Okay, so let's start. And I won't trip.
Rose for now.
Rose is coming up.
Lower her mic,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
They can hear me. All right, I wanted to read this New York City poem. I don't know if everyone remembers B. Altman's and Company on 5th Avenue and 34th Street, which is now part of the Graduate Center of the City University of New York. I dream about B. Altman's. Well, anyway, this is it. New York City, then and now. Altman's for custom-made curtains and lunch among languorous fronds, wallpapering genteel Charleston gardens. Ladies' night dinners, especially priced, at Schraff's and Treffner's. Jazz at any night spot on West 52nd Street. Half-empty museums, halls, echoing our quiet talk. Our vanity fed on curlers, bobby pins, hairnets, ribbons, lipstick, powder, creams from Woolworths and Lanston's 5 and 10s. Neat and well-dressed, mending and sewing our own clothes with thread, buttons, and fabric from Notions. Traveled a safe subway at all hours. No panhandlers, homeless, or drug addicts. They stayed among the unawakened masses struggling in their ghettos, while we reveled in our underlying ease. Now the awakened masses, unisexed and transgendered, are into crowd-pleasing pleasures in discotheques and outside stadiums, wearing midriff-bearing tops, cultivating junk food palates and Disney-fied tastes, internet access, email, Facebook, texting, and Twittering. Were we too absorbed with artifacts, now reincarnated as pop art? Our former protected innocence laughed at, now that its accoutrements are given a new dimension? Peeling down to basics, freeing us for environmental and global concerns. Oh, for the charm of the paced and cultivated life. Thank you for letting me read my New York poem.
Okay, next person is Barbara Rosenthal.
Barbara. And we're getting ready for Susan. She's gonna roll my picture while I Alright, you know that like push like that.
What about you don't want
I think this goes on that. Okay, this is the galley of my new novel. The launch of it is April 20th at
Barbara,
starts with a C and it's over in my neighborhood.
you got to stand still.
Oh, Barbara Rosenthal, stand still.
The light is bouncing off the mirror.
Yeah, lights.
Getting into
Okay, I didn't set up the lights,
Wow.
but I know how to be in them. So it's a galley. So I changed things it's called Wish for Amnesia. It's published by the Dr. Faustus imprint of Deadly Chaps Press here in New York. The launch actually was in Beretta, Italy, in February when I was there, because this about half the book is set in Italy. The New York launch is February 20th at, starts with a C. It's in my neighborhood. Street, yeah, Cornelia Street Cafe at 6 o'clock. Time and space, man. I don't know. I write about it because I don't know what it is. So I think what I'll read you is the chapter of content.
You want video?
Whatever, the chapter
You
of
want
content.
photograph or video?
I think Mitch is doing like a video, so just, a couple. But, I don't really look good from like underneath because like I'm over 60 and everything, so.
What?
So the title and subtitle is Wish for Amnesia, a tale about a family and time.